Hi everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to build and automate a Python ETL pipeline with Airflow on AWS EC2. And we are going to be using the weather map API. Okay. In my previous video, I showed you how you can connect to the Open Weather Map API, wherein we were able to get our API key. I showed you all of that, and we did some extraction, transformation, and then we saved the file as a CSV file on EC2. But we did not automate that process. We did not orchestrate it, right? And there was no way we could schedule that. But in today's video, we would like to build what you are seeing right here. In this case, we are going to be using Airflow to orchestrate this process. Okay, so what is happening right here is that we are going to be extracting the data we need, that's the current weather information, from the Open Weather Map API. Okay, we are then going to be using Python to transform such data and then loading that data into our Amazon S3 bucket. Okay, and then when we do that, we're going to be basically using Airflow to orchestrate this process. Okay, Airflow is going to help us to automate this process. That means that even while you are sleeping, Airflow takes charge, right? Airflow is going to orchestrate the extraction, the transformation, and the loading based on the time that you have scheduled it for. Let's say you could schedule it for every day at, let's say, 12 p.m., right? And that's going to run. Okay. Now, before we then delve into building our ETL pipeline, it will be good for us to understand the basics of Apache Airflow. What is Apache Airflow? And let us take a look at one or two concepts of Apache Airflow before we delve into building our pipeline. Okay, now let's take a look at this. What is Apache Airflow? Apache Airflow is an open source platform that is used for orchestrating and scheduling workflows of tasks and data pipelines. What do we mean by that? You may have a series of workflows in your pipeline. Take, for example, you are doing some extraction. Maybe you are extracting from a database, maybe Postgres database, or you are extracting from API. This is a task right here. And then from that, when you get the data, you want to do some transformations, either a simple transformation or a complex transformation. And then whatever data you have, you want to load it maybe as a CSV file or as a package file into your Amazon S3 bucket, or whatever form that you want to, in whatever platform you want to load it. Okay, now this is your workflow. Now what Apache Airflow does or helps you to perform is to be able to orchestrate and schedule this pipeline, this workflow. Do you get that right now? So it provides a way to programmatically author, schedule, and monitor workflows. That means that if this workflow, if it breaks at any point, let's say it breaks at this transform point, right? What happens is that you go into this and you check your log to find out what was the problem, right? And then you can fix that problem, right? When you fix that problem, then you can continue running your workflow. Okay, very good. I hope you guys get this right now. Now, a concept now that we really need to understand in terms of Apache Airflow is what we call DAG. Now, what is DAG? DAG is directed acyclic graph. Okay, it is directed acyclic graph. So DAG is directed acyclic graph. Okay, it represents collection of tasks and their dependencies. Collection of tasks and their dependencies. What do we mean by that? If you look at this is one task. This is one task. Okay, this is another task. This is another task. This is another task. Okay, it represents collection of tasks. So that means that the whole of this that you are seeing right here, this is a DAG. Okay, it's a DAG, and then it contains collection of all these different tasks. So a DAG is made of nodes, right? So this node basically represents a task. You have node 1, you have node 2, node 3, node 4, node 5. Okay, so a DAG is made of nodes and directed edges, as you can see right here, So what does that mean? What that means is that this node right here depends on this node right here. That means that node 1 needs to run before node 2 runs, and that is why you have this directed edge or this directed dependency. You can see the arrow. It's the arrow. It's forward. It's a forward-looking arrow. What that means that when node 1 is completed, then it goes to node 2. Okay, from node 2 it goes to node 4, right? Node 4 will not run if node 3 did not run. As you can see, node 2, then node 3 all goes into node 4. That means node 4 needs to run, right? Node 2 and node 3 needs to run before node 4 runs, and node 4 needs to run before node 5 runs. Okay, you can see that right here, right? That is what we mean when we say directed edges, right? And one thing about DAG is that it defines the order in which this needs to be executed, and also it tells you any dependencies in between there. So that means that, and that's what I just explained right now. Okay, it tells you the order: node 1 first, then goes to node 2. So this node 1, node 2 also works in parallel to node 3, right? Because before you can execute node 4, right, node 3 needs to run, and also node 1 and 2, they need to run. That means that node 1 and 2 runs in parallel to node 3. They need to run before node 4 runs. Node 4 needs to run before node 5 runs. Okay, now one thing that you really need to understand in terms of DAG is that it is acyclic. It is acyclic. That means that you cannot, when this thing gets to node 5, you cannot have node 5 come back to node 4, or maybe you have node 5 go to node 2, or you say node 5 goes to node 3. No, this is not the way a DAG works. It is acyclic. It is not cyclical. It is not cyclical. It is not a cycle like this. Okay, it is not a cycle. So it goes one way. Okay, it goes one way, and that is why you see the directed edges. They are moving forward. You don't have, whenever you see anything like this, then this is not a DAG. Okay, I hope you guys understand that right now. Okay, now let us take a look at this. You remember what I mentioned right there, that your node is your task, and this is your directed dependency or directed edges, right? Very good. Now let's quickly take a look at what operators are. When you talk about operators, so those tasks we are talking about in the DAG, they are basically operators. Take note, those tasks, this task we are talking about, they are basically operators, and there are different kinds of operators, right? And one of them is a Python operator. Another one is a sensor operator, right? But let's quickly take a look at this particular operator right here. I call this task 1. An example of that is when you say you want to extract data from an API. What does this mean right here? Okay, so in this case, an example of an operator right here is when you have a Python operator that helps you to execute a Python function which extract data from API or maybe from a database. Okay, it could also be a Python operator that helps you to execute a Python function that does some transformation on your data. Okay, like in this case also you can see it's extracting data from PostgreSQL, right? And then when that is done, you can have another Python operator right here that helps you to join those data, and also have another Python operator right here that also helps you to run a function that does cleaning on your data. I hope you understand that right now. We are going to be building a DAG in this video. Okay, so don't worry, you are going to understand this better as we move forward. So just take note that operators, they are tasks that we have in the DAG, and these are the tasks and they are the operators as well. As you can see, right, I said an operator defines a single task in your workflow or data pipeline or DAG. This is my DAG. You can see right here, guys. This is my DAG, right? The whole of this is my DAG. And an operator defines a single task. An operator defines a single task. This is a single task. That's an operator. It could be a Python operator. It could be a sensor operator. I hope you guys understand that right now. Okay. Now that you've understood that, okay, now what we need to do is I want to remind you again of what we want to build right here before we get into building it. Okay, what we want to do again is we want to connect to this open weather map API. We want to extract the current weather information of our city, so you can put in your city also right there. Okay, you're going to extract the data, and then you're going to use Python also to transform that data, and then you're going to obtain it as a CSV file, which you will then load into your Amazon S3 bucket. We are going to be using Airflow to automate this process, to orchestrate this process. I hope you guys get that right now. All right, guys, now that you have understood what we are planning to do in this video, I think the next thing right now is for us to create our EC2 instance. And also, one other thing is, if you have not watched my previous video where I explained how you can extract data from the Open Weather Map API, I highly encourage you to go do that right now so that you can better understand what I'm doing in this video when I'm connecting to the Weather Map API and parsing the data and obtaining, or even when I'm obtaining my API keys. Okay, I will encourage you to go and watch that. I'll put the link to that video in the description, okay, of this video, so that you can easily get access to that. And if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, I highly encourage you guys to go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell for notification so that you can be notified whenever we release any of our videos. Okay, now let's get going, guys. Let's go to AWS and create our EC2 instance. Okay, very good, guys. So if you don't have an account yet with AWS, I encourage you to go and create an account. It's very easy. You just go to aws.com, or you go to aws.amazon.com, and then you create an account right here. It's pretty much easy to create an account. Okay, now after you have created that account, what you then do is you can come in here and search for EC2. Okay, and also I've also shown you guys this in my previous video where we connected to the Weather Map API on to extract the data. We did all of that on our EC2. Go and watch the video for you to better understand that. Okay, but you can still get some idea right here also. So now let's create our EC2. Let's click on that. Now, very good. Now the next thing we're going to do is we are going to launch an instance. I'll click that, launch instance. Okay, now that I'm here, I will give a name to my EC2 instance. I'll give it a name, and I'll just copy and paste the name I want to give mine right here. Okay, so I give it Weather API Airflow YouTube. Okay, and then click on Ubuntu. We want to use Ubuntu as our OS image. Okay, now leave this as it is, free tier eligible. Okay, so just leave that. And then in the case of this one, there is a free tier eligible of 1 CPU, 1 virtual CPU, and 1 GB memory. This is free, but you might not be able to run the Airflow right there because I tried this and I had some issues. However, maybe you can try and see if you get any luck. If you are able to run it on this 1 GB memory, please let me know in the comment section below if this project worked out for you very well using this 1 GB memory. Okay, but in my own case, I'm going to be using T2 small, which is 2 gigabyte memory, which is pretty much cheap, and that's why I went for that. So I will click this. Another one is T2 medium, but you don't need to use that. Let's go for T2 small. Yeah, this is cheaper than T2 medium. Okay, now we're going to create new key pair. Okay, I'm going to do, although I could select from my different key pairs right here, but I'm not going to do that so that you guys can understand what I'm doing right here. So I will create a new key pair. When I click on create, then it's going to ask me to give it a name. Okay, so I'm going to give it a name right here. So I'll give it this this name, whether API Airflow YML key pair. Okay, take notes, .pem file, and just leave those that way. Then click on create key pair. As you can see right here, that it has downloaded my PEM file. If I go to my downloads folder, you can see it right here, whether API Airflow YML key pair.pem. Take note of that name. That is what we have created. And then what do we need to do? What we need to do right here is, then you can see that when we created it, it has even already selected it for us as the key pair that we selected. Okay, whether API Airflow YML key pair. Okay, now come to security group. I will check this. Okay, I will check that, and then yeah, I think that's it. Let us click on launch instance. Okay, let us click on that. Very good. You can see right here, guys, that we have launched the instance. I can come right here and click instances. You can see this is the one we just created right now, whether API Airflow U2. You can see it says in pending state, right? So if and you can see the instance type T2 small. That's what we did. If you scroll to the right, you can see right here that this is our key pair name. Remember, this is the key pair name that we add. Okay, so what we can do right here is let us refresh. Okay, even if you don't refresh, it already says running, but I like to refresh just to make sure that I'm getting the latest. You can see that we have running, and then it's initializing. So this is going to take few seconds. Okay, and then it's going to complete, or maybe about 1 minute or so, and then it's going to complete. However, while this is initializing, we can even go further to let us do this. Okay, let us update the security key while this is initializing. If I check this, click on that check, then if I go to security, okay, let me scroll down. If I go to security, then click on this security groups. When I click on the security groups, I want to edit the inbound rule. And why do I want to do that? Because I want to be able to see the UI, the user interface of Airflow, and my Airflow is going to run on port 880. That's port 8080. That's 8080. Okay, it's going to run on 8080. So I will click on edit inbound rules. Okay, and then I will say add rule. So I can leave this as custom TCP. If you click on this, right, so I don't need to touch anything. I'll just leave on custom TCP so that I can assign 8080 to this. Okay, and then I can say then I can select maybe my IP right here. That means I only want to be able to get to this only through my IP. If I do this, then it's going to show my IP right here. However, I will be doing anywhere IPv4, so that in this case I can say anywhere with this 0000. Okay, now if you have that, I will say save rule. Now, very good, the rule is saved right now. Let us go back to our EC2 that is running. Okay, this is running, or if I want to check all my EC2s running, all my instances, I mean all the EC2 I have, this is, you can see this is all my EC2, but this is the one running right now. Let me refresh once again. Okay, it says running, but initializing, but we can still, go ahead. Okay, now that we have updated that, the next thing we want to start doing right now is we want to start installing dependencies that we are going to be needing for this project. Okay, I hope you guys get this right now, all the things that we have been doing so far. So I would check this. When I check this, I'll click on connect. When I click on connect, it takes me to this EC2 instance connect. If yours doesn't take you to this tab, let's say you have it on this tab, that's okay. Just come to this tab right here, EC2 instance connect. You can see that it has your public IP, it has the username. The username is Ubuntu, and that is because the OS image that we selected, if you remember, we selected Ubuntu. Okay, then I will do connect. So now I'm connecting. Very good. You can see right here now that I've connected Ubuntu ads, this IP address, all of that. Okay, now also you can see that this is the name of our EC2 instance. Okay, I hope you guys are getting this right here, guys. All right, now let's start installing some dependencies. And this is going to be a long video because we are going to be making sure that we are able to run our Airflow. Okay, now if I right click this, I'm going to do some copy and paste right here. So if I do sudo apt update, I want to update this EC2 that I just provisioned, and as you can see, that is running right here. Okay, now while that is running, I will copy another command that we need to use. That has finished running. I will do a right click, I will paste. Okay, now when I paste, so what am I trying to install also right here? Sudo apt install python 3-pip. We want to install pip because we are going to use that. Then I will say yes. Okay, that is running. That's going to finish in a few seconds. It shouldn't take time. Here, right here, I will just say okay. I will just press enter. Very good, that has finished. Now the next thing is let us install our virtual environment. Sudo apt install python 3.10-venv. I will click that, then I will say yes. Just put y is yes. Okay, then right here again, I will just come in, I will just say enter. Very good. Now that has finished running. Very good, guys. Now the next thing I would like to do is I would like to create a virtual environment for this project. Okay, now what is the name of the virtual environment I want to use? So, and the command line is python 3-m venv, that's venv. Then you put the name of the virtual environment that you are creating. So in my own case, I'm calling it airflow_venv. So that means airflow_virtual environment. That's the name I'm giving it. In your own case, you can decide to give it a different name. You don't have to give it the name I called it. Okay, but just know that this is where you are giving it that name. This python 3-m venv, these are standard that you need to put. Then you then put a space and then write the name of the virtual, what you want to call your virtual environment. So I will click enter, and that is going to create a virtual environment for me. Now it has created a virtual environment for me. Since it has created that, then what I can do is to activate that. Let us do ls right here and see. You can see if I do ls, that means I'm saying that it should list the directory. You can see that I have airflow_venv, right? That is my virtual environment. Now let me activate my virtual environment. I will say source airflow_venv bin, then I will say activate. if I activate that, you can see that airflow underscore venv is right here right now. So what that means is that now we are in our virtual environment, and then we can install some of our other dependencies. Take for example, we are going to be using pandas in this project. Okay, so I'm going to install pandas, sudo pip install pandas. Also, all these commands that I have right here, I will be putting these also in the description, so that you don't have to be typing them. You can just copy and paste. Now we have installed pandas. Another thing we are also going to install is S3FS that will be needed under the hood to connect to our S3 bucket. Okay, so we are going to install that. Okay, another thing also we are going to install right now, that is done. Okay, another thing we are going to install right now is our Airflow. Okay, now to install our Airflow, we have sudo pip install Apache Airflow. Okay, Airflow is going to run right now. It's going to install on our EC2, so that's going to also take some few seconds. Okay, so that is installing. We will stay right here since it's going to take just few seconds. Then after that, we are going to run the Airflow. Okay. All right, Airflow has finished installation. Now, the next thing we would like to do is, now let us call Airflow. Let us call Airflow. So to call the Airflow right now, we are going to say Airflow standalone. Okay, so let me click enter. So now it's trying to come up, is initializing, checking database is initialized, and all of that. Is creating admin user. Now you can see that it's coming up. That's the web server right there that is displaying. You can see that Airflow is ready, and Airflow has created a username for us, which is called admin. It has also created a password for us, which is all this. Right now that we've gotten this, take note of your username and your password. Also, you see what it says here. It says Airflow standalone is for development purposes only. Do not use this in production. As you can see, everything we are doing right here, we are developing a project right here first, right? So now what you then do is, let's come back to this tab where we have our instance. If you come right here, if you check, as you can see, let me quickly also show you something. Remember before we were having this to be initialized, you can see now that the status check says 2 out of 2 checks passed. Pretty much our EC2 instance is running pretty good. Okay, if I check this right now, if you take a look at this public IPv4 DNS, okay, copy this, right? Just click that to copy it. Open a new tab. Okay, if I paste it right there, then I'll put a colon. I'll put a colon right there. Then I'll put 8080. Remember what we did before? We add that port 8080 on when we updated our inbound rules in our security groups. Okay, now I'll click enter. Now, very good, guys. As you can see, now that I've clicked enter, now it has taken me to the Airflow UI, username and password. You can see right here, guys. Now, if you've gotten this far, good job, guys. And if you are not able to get here, maybe you've made some errors or something, I will encourage you to spend some time to debug the errors, to check what's going on. Okay, very good. Now, let's go back to where, our Airflow is running. As you can see, now you have a lot of get commands or so right here, and that is because we are already interacting with Airflow. But I need to go up again. You see where you have standalone right here. To copy my password, if I highlight this, I can right click and just say copy. Okay, then I'll come right here and I'll say admin. Okay, I'll say admin, and then I'll paste my password. Okay, then I'll say sign in. Very good, guys. Very good, guys. If you made it this far, good job. Good job. Congratulations. You can see we have our DAGs right here. Remember I was talking about DAGs the other time, right? And we said DAG is directed acyclic graph, right? That is what represents your workflow, right? So if you come right here, let us just take a look at an example. These are DAGs that comes in with the Airflow that we installed. We don't have to use any of these DAGs, okay? We can create our own, which is what we are definitely going to even do right now. But just to give you guys some intuition as to what the DAG is, let's come to this example branch labels. Let's just quickly discuss that. When you click on that, then come to graph. Now that we have graph, you can see what we have right here. You can see that this is like an example of what I showed you in the other slides, the PowerPoint. You can see that in this case, you can tell that this is a task right here. It's a node, right? This is one node right here, which is a task. So this is doing some ingestion of data, right? And then after that, it goes to analyze. It's going to analyze the data. Then after that, it goes to check integrity. So that means this is going to check the integrity of the data. And then you can see that after that, the next thing is this flow right here that are in parallel. So that means that if it checks the integrity, if there are some errors that are found, right, then it says it describes the integrity. Then you have some email error, you know. This is, we don't know exactly what the code is going to be doing, but you know, based on this description right here, we have an idea. And then it sends the report, or maybe it saves it somewhere as a report, right? Or if there is no error found, you remember this one says error found. If there is no error found, right, you say no errors, then it saves it, and then maybe it saves into a report or something. You can see this is an example of a DAG right here. I hope you guys understand this right now. You can see that in this case, there is no cycle. There is nothing that says that a particular arrow, or maybe from email error it goes back to describe integrity, or maybe from describe integrity it comes back to check integrity. No, it's always forward looking, okay? Those directed edges or directed dependencies, they point forward, right? So, and that's why it is called directed acyclic. It is not cycled, acyclic graph, okay? Now, very good, guys. If I come back right here to Airflow, you can see that we have 45 DAGs right here. So now, in our own case, we are going to be building our own pipeline. We are going to be building one DAG. So that means that when we are able to successfully build our own DAG, we should be having 46 right here, okay? But take note, right now, all these are the DAGs that comes with our Airflow installation, okay? Now, it's also possible that by the time you are watching this video and you are also practicing what I'm doing right here, you may see maybe more DAGs right here when you install. It's possible, probably because Airflow, or you know, the open source team, they have added more DAGs into it. But whichever way, what we are just trying to say right here is when you add your own DAG, which in this case, in this video, we're going to be building one DAG, so it should be a +1. By the time you add your DAG, that means if yours is 45, then you should see 46 when you add your DAG. Or by the time you are watching this video and creating yours, if it is 50, then you should see 51 when you add your own DAG. Okay. Now, very good, guys. Congratulations if you've gotten this far. Now, the next thing we are going to be doing is let us start developing right now. Let us start developing our code. And if you remember what I told you right in my previous video, one of my previous video, if you have not watched that, where I showed you how you can connect your Visual Studio Code to EC2, because it's really difficult for you to be developing your code in this type of terminal, right? So because of that, we are going to be using Visual Studio Code to do that. If you have not watched my previous video where I showed you how to download Visual Studio Code and how you can connect that to EC2 instance, I highly encourage you to go do that. I'm going to put a link in the description below that shows you how you can that explains how you can connect your Visual Studio Code to EC2. However, in this video also, I will try to do some little justice to that. I'll try to, show that also to you, at some, but probably not in full detail. But let's take a look at how we can do that, and let's begin developing our code, guys. So now I've opened my own Visual Studio Code. I will drag it to this screen, okay, and then I am going to go to open folder to my user directory and this .ssh. Okay, I'm going to do select folder. Now, for those of you that have not watched my previous video where I showed you how to connect your Visual Studio Code to EC2 instance, I highly encourage you to go do that right now, because I explained in detail how that is done. Okay, because if you have not done that before, you might not know where to get this config file. Okay, so go and watch that video. Okay, so I explain all of that, because you have to also do some slight configuration, which I explained in the video. Okay, so now come to config, and then I can copy this. Just paste it right here. Okay, also take note that whatever we are writing right here needs to follow this format, this way, the way we have it right here. So as you can see that I have some configurations that I have right here, and this is for different EC2 instances that I have, right? But in this case now, I need to be able to connect to this Weather API Airflow YouTube, which is the EC2 instance we are working with right now. Okay, so what I will do is I will copy this name, okay, because we want to connect to this. So we want to create a connection for it right in our config file. So I will delete that. I will paste this right here, and then the next thing we need is this host name, which is the IP address. Now that we have checked this, so if you come right here, if you go up right, you see public IP4. Then what you have to do is take this one out, okay, and then just paste it, okay, and then the user is Ubuntu. Remember that it was Ubuntu we selected earlier, right? Another way you could also know is that if you do connect, you can see username, it says Ubuntu. It says Ubuntu right here under this EC2 instance connect. Okay, very good. And now the next thing is this identity file. Remember that when we were creating our EC2 instance, we created a key pair, right, which is a .pem file, right? And when I did mine, remember I put it right in my downloads folder, and this is it right here. So all you have to do is just get the path for this. So you can come right here and just copy, and then just put the file name right there. Okay, so that should be pretty easy. In my case, I will just copy this, and that's because I already have the path right here, path to my downloads folder. So all I just need right now is this file name, which I have put right there, and then I will click save, Control S. Very good. Now that I've clicked Control S, now the next thing I need to do is come right here to this open a remote window, and then I'm going to click this, okay, and then I'll come to connect to hosts. I'll click connect to hosts because I want to connect to that computer. You can see now I'm able to have Weather API Airflow YouTube, right? Weather API Airflow YouTube. That is what we want to connect to. I will click that, and then it's trying to open right now for me, because this will help us to be able to build, to be able to develop code pretty easy. Okay, so that is trying to make some connections right there. Now it's asking me what platform. We know that it's gonna be Linux. You can also verify right here. I believe there is a place we can. If I come back to this EC2, let's see. You can see say platform details, Linux or Linux. Okay, so I will just click on Linux. Then are you sure you want to continue? Continue. Okay. Now you can see right here, guys, that this has connected. It says SSH, Weather API, Airflow, YouTube. This has connected. Very good, guys. Very good, guys. Before we continue, guys, again, if you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please, I highly encourage you. Please go do that right now to subscribe to my YouTube channel and click on the bell so that you can be notified whenever we release any of our videos. And please help us to like these videos, because as you know that the more likes we get, the better the YouTube algorithm is going to rank us higher. Okay, please do that for us, and also comment in the section below, right? If you have any comment, if you have any question, please go ahead to do that, because those are part of what the YouTube algorithm also are going to be using. If you really find this valuable, and also we have some we have a playlist on SQL videos. Okay, you can also go check that out. All right, guys, now let us come back right here. Remember right now that we are in our EC2 computer right now, EC2 instance. I will come right here, I will say file, and then I'll say open folder. If I say open folder, you can see home Ubuntu. So that is our home directory. I will say okay. Now it's trying to bring that folder right here. Okay, now when that comes up, the next thing we are going to be doing right now is to be creating our DAG file. Okay, now let this comes up. Now it's asking me, do I trust the authors of all these files in this parent folder? I say yes. Check that. Yes, I trust the authors. Okay, very good. You can see now we have our folders right here. You can see this is the virtual environment we created before. You remember Airflow underscore venv, and then we installed Airflow. This is our Airflow. If you click that, you see logs and all this, then you have this configuration and all of that. Now what we need to then do right now is let us stay inside this Airflow and just click on this Airflow and right click. We want to create a file. Okay, we are going to call that file weather underscore dag.py, weather underscore dag.py. You can see sorry, let us delete that first. I'm going to right click and delete that. Yeah, you see, that's one of the easy things using the visual. That's one of the easy things using Visual Studio Code. It's pretty easy. Okay, but first inside this Airflow, let us create a folder. Let us create a folder first that we are going to call DAGS. Okay, we are going to call DAGS, and then let us click enter. Then now inside this DAGS, let us create a file that is called weather underscore dag.py. right? That's going to be our that's going to be our Python file that we are going to be writing our codes. Okay, now we are in the process of creating our DAG right now. Remember what DAG is, right? Remember that your DAG is that your workflow, right? That is going to contain all the tasks that you are talking about, the different flows, right? From your extraction to your transformation to your loading, basically your ETL process. Okay, now the first thing we are going to be doing right here, we are going to be doing some import right here, which I'm going to be copying. I'm not going to be typing a lot right here so that we can, save some time right here. If I put it right here from Airflow import DAG, now this is telling our Airflow server right here that this file is our DAG. This file is our DAG file. That means that it is from here now we are going to be creating our DAG. Okay, now very good. Now what do we need to do? Okay, now what I'm going to do right here is that I'm going to create some arguments right here. Okay, I'm going to say default arguments. Take note, we're still going to do many more imports. Okay, but let's just keep going. I'm going to close this this dictionary. Okay, now what am I doing right here? I'm saying that the owner is Airflow. You can put any name right here. Now I'm creating some arguments right here. Depends on past. I'm saying false, that this does not depend on past. I'm saying my start date. I need to import date time as well right here. Let me do that. right now so that we don't get any error. So I'm going to be importing date time and time delta, okay, because we're also going to be using time delta. So your start date, so that means you are saying that when do you want this Airflow to start running? When do you want it to start running, right? So that is the day your DAG starts being scheduled. When do you want it to start running? Okay, when do you want it to be scheduled? So I'm saying, okay, be scheduled for 2023 January 8th. Okay, pretty easy. Email, you can put your email right here, my email at thedomain.com. And if you don't want to put your email, that's fine. You could also just, take this out and just have an empty list right there. That's also possible. Okay, very good. What happened right there? Let's see. Okay, very good. Now email on failure. So now in this case you are saying he's asking you, should I email you on failure? So basically you can say true. That means that if the pipeline fails, email me. But in this case we just say false. Email on retry. When he wants to retry, should it email you? I can just say false. But if you want it, you can say true. If you put true, that means you are saying that this needs, then you have to put the correct email address right. Okay, now retries. How many times do you want it to retry after if there is a failure? Here I'm saying just retry 2 times. Then retry delay, then you put time delta, minutes equals to 2. What does that mean? That means that you are saying that when it fails, right, and then it retries 1 time, how many minutes should it wait before it retries again? So I'm saying, yeah, do that in 2 minutes. Okay, very good, guys. Now remember, we're just building something right here. Now the next thing we want to build right here, we want to put right here is your DAG. Remember that we just imported DAG right here. Okay, so what I will do right here is I will say with DAG, then I will put a DAG name. Take note, this your DAG name needs to be unique across all the DAGs that you have. Now what do we mean by that? As you know that on this DAGs right here that we have right here, let's say you have a lot of DAGs already right here. Okay, now we are saying that each name right here needs to be unique. As you can see, this one says dataset consumes 1, dataset consume 1 and 2. Each name needs to be unique. Okay, very good. I hope you understand that. Now I will say default argument, then I'll pass in this default argument that I have right here. I'll put it right here. Then what is my schedule interval? I'm saying I want to do it daily, at daily. That means that it's going to be run each day, and I think this is going to be at midnight daily right here. Okay, then catch up, I want to put it as false, right? And what that means is that, let's say, right here that I say this start date is this, right? And if I run this right now, I'm saying, should it catch up with this? Should it look for the last time I ran this DAG? And then it's going to run from that day, the last time I ran it, up to right now that I'm running it. So in this case, I will say false because I don't need that right now. I hope you guys understand this right now. Okay, very good, guys. Very good, guys. Now we are getting somewhere, guys. Now the next thing we want to do, remember, let's go back to our workflow again. Remember, what we want to do is we want to extract data from the Open Weather Map API. But one thing I want you to know is that I don't want to just extract it immediately. I want to check first if this Open Weather Map API, if it is ready, if it is available, right? Because the reason is, let's say it's down, let's say the API is down, it's not available, then I don't want to move forward with the pipeline, right? So that means it's going to break, right? So I want to check if it is available first before it moves to the next task, right? Or maybe even my API key is wrong, right? Or maybe my API key is wrong, then that means in that case I need to do what? It's going to break, right? So I want to be able to check first. Now what helps us in doing that is this task. I'm going to create one task right here. Remember that we just created a DAG right here. This is this DAG, right? However, DAG needs task. inside of it, right? So let us create our first task. Okay, I'm going to copy and paste right here. Okay, it's good. Everything's going to be wrapped inside this one DAG, and this DAG is called what? weather_DAG. I hope you understand that right now. So I'm going to bring this back. Okay, now take a look at what I'm trying to do right here, guys. Now I'm saying is weather API ready. This is the name I'm giving to this right here, but I'm going to give it a task ID. So I like to make this and the task ID the same. Okay, so I'm also calling it is weather API ready. So that same name. Now in the case of this, right, what we are using, the operator we are using right here is this HTTP sensor. This is a sensor right here. What does the sensor do? The sensor is basically just from the word sensors, which you basically all know what sensor is, right? So it's going to just help you to wait for a particular condition to be met. You are setting up a condition that fulfill this condition. Check if this condition is met before you trigger the next event or before you trigger the next task. Okay, so like in this case, I want to check if the API is ready before it moves to the next task. Okay, so I called it HTTP sensor. So I need to import that as well. And as part of this project, we are going to be using JSON. So I will import JSON also right here. Now I will explain what this is right here. Remember, we have talked about our task ID, and also one thing you need to know is that your task ID needs to be unique across the DAG, the specific DAG you are talking about. Remember, this is one DAG we are looking at right here, but it's going to have different tasks. It's going to have different tasks, right? So this needs to be what? It needs to be unique. Okay, now there is something we are going to pass right here, which is called HTTP connection ID. Okay, this HTTP connection ID is what we called, is what I gave it a name called weather map API. That is my connection ID. I'm going to explain that to you. Okay, now this endpoint, I gave it this. Now, how do I come about this? Now, let us go back. Let us go to our open weather map. If you have not watched my previous video where I explained how you can extract data from the Open Weather Map API, I highly encourage you to go do that. I'm going to put a link in the description below for that video. I highly encourage you to go do that. Okay, but then right here I will just do some few explanation. You have to create an account on this website, this API, openweathermap.org. You have to create an account. Okay, when you create an account, then it's going to generate an API key for you. It's going to send it to you to your email, right? And also you have it here, and then it takes, I think, few hours, 1 or 2 hours or something, to activate the API key. So in my case, I have it right here. So if I click on this, my API keys is going to take me right here. You can see that I have this, which I used in my previous video. I have deactivated it. It is inactive right now, so you cannot use it. Now this is the new one I generated. You click, you type in API key name, then you generate. It's going to generate you another one. After I finish this video, I'm also going to deactivate this, so there is no way you can use it. You have to generate yours. Okay, so that is this API key. Take note of that. And also, what you then also need to do is come to this API. If I come to this API, I will scroll down a little bit, and then I will come to current weather data. I will click on API doc. So I'm trying to show you something right here, but I encourage you to go and watch the previous video, which I've explained how to do this extraction. Okay, now, but if you come right down here, there is something I want to explain, or that I want to show you right here. Okay, if I come right here, you can see something right here, that how do I call this API? The way to call this API is you have https api.openweathermap.org. You can see that is the main website right here, okay, for the API. And then you have this part, which is where you have data 2.5, weather, question mark Q. Then you have the city name and the app ID where you put the API key. Okay, so now if you come back to my code right here, so I put this connection ID, weather map API. This weather map API, by the time I'm configuring my Airflow, I'm going to put the host name to be this right here. Okay. So, and then my endpoint, which is all this that I have right here. Okay, and that is what I have here. If you look at this endpoint, this is what I have as my endpoint, because I put the API key, which I just showed you. Okay, and also the city which I am interested in. So you type your city right here. In my case, I'm interested in Portland, and then the API key that I just showed you on that openweathermap.org where I had my API key. This is the new API key I just generated. Okay, very good. Now guys, now the next thing that we now need to do right here is let us go to our Airflow, come to admin. If you come to admin, come to connections. If I come to connections, because we want to be able to connect to that API. Okay, so we need to create a new connection. Click this plus. Okay, now put your connection ID. What is your connection ID? Remember, what we put right here is weather map _ API. You can give it a different name if you want. You can use different connection ID. All that is important is that the connection ID you put right here is what you are going to also put right here. Okay, now what is our connection type? It is HTTP, right? HTTP. And then for this host, that is where you are going to grab this. Remember, I showed you are going to grab this one right here. Okay, you are going to grab that. So copy and paste. You put that right here. So now you are saying that for that task, connect to this weather map API, which is my connection ID, so that this can relate to this code that you have right here. Okay, and then this is the host, that's the base URL right here, and it's an HTTP request. And then in that case, I'll scroll down and then I'll do save. Okay, now very good. Now that I have already gotten that, what is the next thing? Okay, what I'm going to do is I can save this right here. And then there is one thing you need to quickly check out. If you come to airflow.cfg, that's the Airflow configuration. If you click this, now you want to be able to make sure that the path that you have right here is the path where your DAG is. And remember that we said that inside this Airflow, we created DAGS folder. Now inside this DAGS folder, remember that is where we have this weather _ dag.py. This is our DAG, right? It is inside this DAGS folder. You want to make sure that your file path is the same. So we have home/ubuntu/airflow, right? This is the Airflow folder, and then you have DAGS folder. That's where we created it. So this is where Airflow is going to be looking at to find our DAG, which is the weather _ dag.py. Okay, you want to make sure that is what you have right there. Okay, now I hope we are also not missing anything to create our first DAG. Okay, now let us save this and let us take a look at our Airflow UI and let us see what we have. This is saved right here. We will come right here and then let us click Airflow. Very good. You can see right here it says now we have 46 DAGs. Previously we had 45. If you are not seeing that, if you are not seeing this 46, or if you scroll down, if you are not seeing this DAG that we just created right here, okay, you might probably need to wait for a few minutes, because a lot of times when you updated your code, it might take, especially if you just created the DAG, it might take a few minutes for it to upload, maybe around 2 to 5 minutes or so for it to have right here. Otherwise, what you can make sure that you have right here is you want to make sure that there is an auto refresh. This auto refresh, you check it, you make sure that it is like this. You can see mine means that it is auto refreshing every few seconds. It's refreshing every few seconds. Or otherwise, you can click this, reload this page. If you don't want to click reload this page, you can click this Airflow icon. When you also do that, you're also going to have that. Okay, very good, guys. Now let us click on our DAG. Let us see what we got. When you click, come to graph. Very good. You can see right here, guys. This is our DAG, and we just created one task, which we call is weather API ready. What this is going to do is that it's going to connect to this weather map API, right? And then it's going to check that endpoint, because the endpoint I put right there is for Portland, and then with my API it's going to check. Let us run this and let us see if this is going to run successfully. If it runs successfully, then that means this first task, we are good on that. So I will come right here, I'll click this play button and then say trigger DAG. How do we know if it runs successfully? I'm going to show you right here, guys. You can see this color brown. It says it is queued. It is queued. You can see these are now. You can see this green right here. This green right here is green, right? You see this is success. Okay. Now you can see these are just some icons that you need to familiarize yourself with. If you have the borderline of your task, if you have it to be red, color red, then that means it has failed. If it is this brown, then that means it is queued. That means it's about to run. Then if it is this sort of green color, then it is currently running. Okay. If it is this color of I think this is yellow, right? And then in that case, it means that it is up for retry. It is trying to retry. Okay. And then if it is this color of green, then that means it is successful. If you have these right here, guys, congratulations. That means you are really getting it right. If you have some issues, you could say some error right here. Try to debug the error. Another thing also is that if you, let's say you are on this Airflow and you see some error. So let's say you have some error right here. There might be some error in your code of DAG, and then you need to probably fix that. Okay. And also, if you are in this task that we just run, let's assume that there was an error right here. All you have to do is just click this. When you click it, you come to log, and then you check what is going on. You just read through to see. It will give you a pointer to what exactly is the problem. You can see in this case it says success criteria met, marking task as success. Okay, very good, guys. You can see what we just did right here. This is a sensor. That means that this is checking if our endpoint is ready, if it is available, if it is correct. So if it is correct, then we are saying that go to the next task. Now let us build the next task, guys. Now let us go back to our Visual Studio Code again, and let us click do the next task. And the next task we want to do right here, right now, is to extract data. Okay, is to extract data. Okay, since we know that our endpoint is working correctly, now let us extract data. If we want to extract data, what we are going to be using is a simple HTTP operator. Okay, we are going to import this. We are going to import this right here. I will do a copy and paste right here, guys. Okay, and then I will save it. Also, one other thing I want to quickly share with you is let's quickly take a look at Airflow documentation. I can say Airflow docs. Okay, I want to show you something. If I come right here, Airflow, okay, documentation, there is something right here, hypertext transfer protocol. If I click this, and if I click up, I think operators, now I want to show you You can see this is HTTP sensor that we just used right here. Okay, you specify your task ID, your connection ID, and your endpoint. And there's also something we call poke interval. In this case, I did not use that, but what the poke interval just means is that after how many, say, seconds do you want to be poking, or do you want to be checking if that event has occurred. So that means that, let's say you are using your sensor to be watching out for a particular file or a particular, and in this case it's HTTP sensor, right? Let's say you want to be poking a particular website. If something is ready, just like in this case, if that API is ready, I can say check for me every 5 seconds or check for me every 2 seconds. Okay, but in this case I did not use it. But the one I wanted to show you right now is this one that we are about to look at, which is the simple HTTP operator. Okay, you can see this is the simple HTTP operator. This is what this is an example of what we want to do right here, that we are going to use response filter right here. You can go through this documentation for you to better understand what's going on. Okay, but what we are going to do right here is, remember that we are going to create our task. So we call it extract weather data. Okay, this is our task. Let's give it a task ID. I like to use the same thing. Okay, we have imported this. Then remember, you also need a connection ID, because in this case, which is going to be the same thing as here, because it is still the same API that we want to grab something from, right? So that's why we still use the same one, weather map API. Remember, we already have the host name. We already put everything in that admin drop down where we created those connections. So the endpoint remains the same, because that is the data we want to check right now. Because what the first task was doing was to check if that API was ready. Basically, it's checking, do we have all the necessary API key there? Is the path, everything correct? Now, the method we want to do right here, we want to use the get method, because we want to get data, right? And then our response filter, you can just use a lambda function right here. So you are saying R, which is response, such that JSON.load. So we want to grab the response. You say response.text, so you grab that, and then you use JSON.loads so that we can have that as a dictionary, right? And then log response is true. So I'm saying that, yeah, I want you to log the responses. Okay, now this is going to help us to extract our data. After we extract, then what do we need to do? Then we need to transform, but we are not going to go to transformation yet. Let us see what is going to happen when we have this. Remember to save. I have saved. Now let us go back to our UI, Airflow UI, so I can refresh this screen right here. You can see it says DAG, whether DAG seems to be missing. Let's see what the error is right here. Click this. It says simple HTTP on indent does not match any outer indentation level. Okay, so maybe, and it gives us line 40. So maybe we did not indent very well. Oh yeah. Let's see. So just move this, just press the tab so that it can be well aligned. You can see right here, guys, that when you do, then make sure to save. Okay, when you do things like this, you always get some errors, right? But it's okay. Just go in, read through what the error is saying and try to figure out what you need to do. Okay, so right here, I can refresh this. You can see that is cleared. I'll go back to my DAG right here, then I will do graph. Very good. You can see, guys, right here. Now we have what we have is whether API ready, that's one task, and extract weather data, that is another task. You can see right here that these are not joined right here. We don't know which, basically we don't know which path or what is the workflow rather for this. Right now, for us to create workflow, what we need to just do is come to your DAG right here, and then come to the bottom of your of this Visual Studio Code, of this your code right here, and then you can make sure that you have that you have this is whether API ready. Remember, this is the whether API ready. Then you do 2 greater than sign, and then you have extract weather data. What this is basically saying, make sure that your indentation is correct. What this is saying right here is that this is going to run. This is the first task followed by this task. Okay, now let us save it. If I save it and then I come right here, let me refresh. I've refreshed, nothing is happening yet. It seems like maybe it's taking some few, wants to take some few seconds for it to be able to read that. Okay, let us go back again. Very good. You can see right here, guys. Now there is a connection right here. That means that this is going to run before this. Now let us run. Let us see if there is not going to be any errors. Trigger DAG. If I trigger it, you can see this is running according to, you see, according to the legend, this has finished running. Now this also has finished running. You can see, very good. Now we have been able to connect to that, two tasks together, which we are able to run. I hope you guys understand that right now. Very good, guys. Now the next thing now is, now that we have gotten this, we have extracted this, we want to be able to transform the data and also load the data to our S3. Remember what we have right here, extract, transform. Now we have extracted, but my Python function is going to do both transforming and loading into the S3 bucket. But before we load into S3 bucket, let us just save it into our EC2 instance, just for us to understand that first. Okay, very good. So now let us create the third task. Okay, let us create the third task, guys. So I will come right here. As a matter of fact, this can come here. Yeah. Okay, now this is my third task. Now this third task, I call it transform load weather data. That means now we are going to transform the data and then we are going to load it. Okay, now this is using a Python operator. Okay, this is using a Python operator right here. So what I need to do is I need to import that Python operator. I'm going to do that right here, and also in this function, also in the function we are going to be using right here, we are also going to be using pandas. So remember, we have done a pip install pandas before, right? So I'm going to be installing pandas right here. Okay, so now I have Python operator, then I have my task ID. Remember, your task ID needs to be unique across that same DAGs. Since this is just one DAG, so our task ID needs to be unique within this DAG. Okay, so I have this DAG, this task name to be also equal to this task name right here. Now Python callable. What is this Python callable? This is the function you want to run. You want to run this function for this particular task. So for this particular task now, what function do I want to run? Okay, now I'm going to do a copy and paste of some of functions right here, guys. Okay, so I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put it above right here. Okay, I'm going to put it above right here, and then I'm going to have this. I will spend few minutes, 1 or 2 minutes, to quickly explain what is going on right here for you. Okay, and then close the brackets, and then I will take this out for now. So now what are we doing right here? Okay, let me put one more function here. Okay, very good. I think this is good. So I just told you right here that we have created one more task, which is going to transform and load the data. Okay, Now, what is that function doing? This is the function right there. That's why we call it Python callable. So now let's go to the function. So what this function is doing right here is that, remember that this function is what's going to come after the extraction, right? So you are going to pass in a task instance. That means that the task instance, that's an instance of a task, right? And what is the task we want to pass into this particular function? Is going to be the previous task, right? That's that extraction, okay? And that's why we have this task instance dot xcom underscore pool task ID what? This extract weather data. So we are saying that whatever we obtain from this extract weather data, this task right here, we are saying that that is what we want to pull into here, and then we will call it data. Do you understand that right now? That is what this is basically doing. Remember that this is a DAG, it's a workflow, right? And I said that this extract weather data is the workflow before this transformation. So whatever this is going to output to us is what we are going to be using for transformation. So that's why you need to put the task ID, right? You use task instance.xcom, this task instance.xcom. Okay, so now this is our data. So now let us do some transformation. So what I'm doing right here is I'm getting the city, that's the city name Portland. If you have not watched my previous video where I actually showed you guys how to do all these things, this transformation, take notes. I'll put the link in the description below where I actually explain to you the extraction process and the transformation, where I explain this code in detail. Okay, but also right here I'll do some few justice to that. So but this weather description, we are obtaining that from here, and then this temperature in Fahrenheit, we are also grabbing that, and we are also then converting that temperature, because the temperature is in Kelvin, we convert it to Fahrenheit, which is what this function is all about. So if you don't know Python, because we are not teaching Python right here, so I don't want to spend time on explaining what function is or what all these things are, right? But basically just understand that what we are doing right here, we are converting the temperature right here, which is feels like, or minimum temperature, maximum temperature, we are converting them to Fahrenheit by calling this function on them. Okay, and here we are grabbing the pressure, humidity, sunrise time and sunset time. So in the case of this one, what we are doing right here is we are converting the time at which the sunrise or sunset into our local time. Okay, and that is what we are doing right here using the time zone. Again, you can watch my previous video to better understand that. Okay, that is what all these things are for, right? Okay, now I'm getting those data, everything that I'm getting right here, I'm putting them into a dictionary so that at the end of the day I can convert it into a data frame. Okay, now that I've converted it into a data frame, but what I also want to do is that I want for each run, or for each data, for each CSV that I load, I want it to be, I want each of the file name to have a unique file name, and that is why I want the file name to also include the time, the date and the time at which I run the script. And that is what I'm doing right here. I'm grabbing the date time right now and then formatting it, and then joining this string right here with the datetime string. Okay, and then this is going to be the file name. Okay, now I think this should be able to run. If it doesn't run, then we will try to find what exactly is wrong with our code. However, there is one more thing that remains, and one thing that remains is that we need to be able to put this to update this workflow right here. Okay, and remember that what we are trying to do right here is we are trying to say that this needs to run, followed by this, followed by this. Let's even assume that we don't even put it first. Let us save this and let us go back to our Airflow. Maybe it's going to take few seconds for it to show up. Let's see. Okay, very good. Now we have it. You can see now we have this third task, right? But this task is not it doesn't have any dependency to this right here right now, because we have not showed it in our code. So let us go back right here and show it in our code right here. Okay, so now I'm saying that run this, then followed by this, then followed by this, right? Then I can save this. If I save this, now I can refresh. Okay, it's still taking it's still taking some time for it to read the code. Let me refresh again. Very good. You can see now that this is going to run. Sorry about that. This is going to run, then followed by this. And one thing I also want to quickly explain right here is, if you click on this code, our code that the code that we are developing, you can see everything also shows here from the code that we have in our Visual Studio Code right here, also shows here in our Airflow UI. Okay, that's a very good thing right there. Okay, now that we have this, now let us see if we can run. If there will be no issue, if there's any issue, we'll try to fix it. But before that, one thing I want you to look at is right here. You can see right here we don't have any CSV file, right? So right here we have not specified in our code where we want to we have not specified if we want to save it in S3 bucket, because we have not created the S3 bucket, right? So let us do that first, right? Let us run it for, let's see if it's going to save inside our EC2. Okay, now I'll come right here and then I will click this, then I will say trigger DAG. Okay, now you see this has finished running successful. This is queued, it's running right now. Look at that color. Now it has finished running. Now this one is queued. Very good. You can see this also has finished running. Very good, guys. Fantastic. If you are able to get to this, then congratulations. If not, if it's giving you some error, just click inside there, go to this log and try to look for what might be the problem, then go ahead and fix that. Okay, very good, guys. Let's go to our Visual Studio Code. Let's see if we have a CSV file. Oh, very good. You can see we have a CSV file. The file name is called current weather data Portland. Then the time at which I ran it, the date and the time, and that's why I put it right here. If I run it again, you see that I will have a second CSV file. Let me come right here and trigger it again. Okay, very good stuff. This is okay. It has checked, the sensor has run. That means it says go to extract the data right now. That has finished. We've gotten the data, we've passed the data into it's transforming and loading. Very good. It has run successfully, guys. Let us go right here. You can see we have the second CSV file, because the time at which we triggered it is different, because we are capturing the time right here. You remember, guys, we are capturing it right here. Very good, guys. Now that we have been able to get the data in our EC2 instance, that means that we have been able to load, we have been able to do an extraction, transformation, and loading. That is fantastic, guys, right? But then, what about if we want to load this CSV into our S3 bucket? I think that is what we should aim to do right now, guys. Okay. Now, what we need to first of all do is, let's go back to our EC2, to our AWS account, and try to create an S3 bucket. Okay, I'll type S3, and then, oh, this says I was signed out. Okay, let me sign in again. Okay, I will go off for a few seconds and then log back in. Okay. So I've signed back in, okay, and when I sign back in and refresh my Airflow screen, I see that this is I lost the connection. And then also when I refresh this, you see it says the scheduler does not appear to be running. Last heartbeat was received 36 seconds ago. The DAGS list may not update and new task will not be scheduled. So what that means is that would be good for me to come right here and run the Airflow standalone again. Okay, I'm going to let that run, and it should be the same. It should be the same username, which is admin, and password. Okay, but while that is going on, let us create our S3 bucket. Okay, I will type S3 here, and then I'll do S3. Okay, now that I have that, I need to create an S3 bucket. I will come right here, I will say create bucket. Okay, when I do create bucket, in that case I can give it a name. I will put the name I want right here, and take note the name should be unique across all the S3 buckets, right? So it needs to be unique. Okay, globally. Okay, so I say whether API Airflow YouTube bucket -yml. So select your region closest to you. In my case, this is what is closest to me, so I chose this. Okay, and then I just leave everything the way it is. Then I will do it says bucket name must not contain uppercase characters. Okay, so I will change all those uppercase to lowercase. Okay, yeah, because there are rules for this, so I will do that. Okay, and then I will do create buckets. You can see that bucket has been created, which is this right here. So this is where we want to save our CSV. Okay, now that we have that, before we move ahead, what we want to also do is to give EC2 access to give access to our S3 bucket. So we want to give EC2 access to S3 bucket. Okay, so I'll come to my EC2 instance right here. So this is my EC2 instance. We want to give it access to our S3 bucket. So we will come to actions right here. We come to security, and we come to modify IAM role, right? And then if you look at this right here, yeah, I have one that I've already created right here. But then let me create another one. Let me create another so that you can see what we need to do. So I click that, and then I will say create role, and then AWS service. Then I will say EC2. You see, it says allows EC2 instances to call AWS services on your behalf. Okay, now I will do next. Now I will type EC2, click enter, so that it can filter for me. So I will say Amazon EC2 full access. I'll give you full access. Then take this out. Then I will type S3, enter. Then I will say Amazon S3 full access. I will click this. Okay. Then I will scroll down. So that means I'm saying EC2 full access and S3 full access. Then I will say next. Okay. And then I need to give this permission a name. So I can say, the role name. I can say, okay, this is the role name, Airflow ETL weather map YML. Okay, so we have this Amazon S3 full access, Amazon EC2 full access. That will help the EC2 to be able to connect to the S3. That means that when we are running our code on EC2 and we generate the CSV file, then it can then load that into the S3 bucket. So I will say create role. Okay, create role, very good. Now that we have created that role, I will come back right here, and then I will refresh. When I refresh, I come back right here. You can see that this is what we just created right here, Airflow ETL weather map YML. I'll click that, then I will say update IAM role. Very good, guys, very good. Now that we have done that, let's also go back to our Airflow. Now this has finished initializing, and then let's see if triggers currently running. Okay, let's go to our Airflow. Let's make sure that everything is working fine. Before we move forward, I would refresh my screen right here. Okay, and it seems that there is no issue right here. Let us also rerun it again just to make sure that if you look at this, we still have the 2 CSVs. Let's just make sure that everything is working fine. I will run the DAG again. So we should see the 3rd CSV file. Okay, just for us to make sure that everything is running before we try it on S3 bucket. This has finished running successfully. Very good. Very good. This also has finished running successfully. As you can see, the green that you have right now is this green, which shows success. Then I will come right here. You can see, very good, guys. We have the 3rd CSV file. That means everything is working correctly. Okay. Now, very good. But now also we have created our S3 buckets, and we have also created our the IAM role, right? That helps the EC2 to connect to the S3 bucket. So the next thing now is let us update our code. Let us update our code so that we can be able to save this inside, right here we saved it inside this EC2, but now we want to save it inside the S3 bucket. So we need to update this. So now what we need to do is let us update that line. And how do you do that? We can come right. We still want to retain this file name, but then we will just come here and we'll say S3 : / then I will put the S3 name. Okay, the S3 bucket name. In my case, I think I pasted it somewhere here on my notepad in my other screen. So in your case, you can just go back to S3, your S3. And if you don't know how to do that, I can just show you right here. Go to your S3, click your S3, and then you can see this is the bucket that we just created. You can highlight and do a Ctrl+C, and then I can come to my code right here, and then I can put it right here, paste it there, and then put that right there. I hope you get it right now, guys. So in this case, this is what we have. So that means that if this is to save it, it's going to come into this S3 bucket, and then it's going to give you this file name. Okay, let us save. Let us run and see if it runs successfully. If not, we will look at the error and see what we need to do. Okay, now let us come back right here. So let us just refresh this just to make sure that everything works out fine. Is this saved? Okay, we have saved that. So let us do a run. We trigger the DAG. Now it's running afresh. This has finished running. Remember, this is a sensor, tells us that the API is ready. It is ready. We are extracting data. We have finished extracting data, and then we are transforming and loading. But this is giving us some error right here. You can see it says up for a try. Up for a try is this color of yellow right here. If I click this and come to log, so there is some error right here. If we look at it, so this is the IAM role. Everything is working fine right there, and then it says client error. An error occurred, access denied when calling the put object. It says no AWS access key was presented. You see, so and then if we come right here, then it says permission error, no AWS access key was presented. So now means that in this case now we need to go through few steps right here right now to make sure that this run. And what we need to do is let us go and create an access key. Okay, now how do we do that? Let us go back to our AWS page right here. Okay, I can come right here to my profile, and I can come right here to security credentials. If I click the security credentials, what do we have? So this is my security credentials. Let us see what we got right here. So in this case, I have one security. I have one access key right here, but let us create another access key. Yeah, let us create an access key right here. Create access key. You can see right here it says alternatives to root user access keys. Root user access keys are not recommended. We don't recommend that you create root user access key because You can't specify the root user in the permissions, blah, blah, blah. He said instead use alternatives such as an IAM role. Okay. Yeah, we could use IAM role. Yeah, but in this case, that's not really the point of this project. We could use that. But in this case also we could use root user access key, which is what we are just going to use right now to get this project done. Okay. So I will say continue to create access key. Then I'll say create access key. Very good. You see that it has created access key for me. Don't leave this page. You can also, because if you lose this number, then you have to generate a different one, because this secret key access, you won't see it anymore. Okay. And in my own case, yeah, even if you see it, that's fine. I'm eventually going to, after this video, I'm going to deactivate all these access keys, so you cannot really use it. Okay. So I will copy this. I can copy it and put it in my notepad. I can also copy this and put it in my notepad, right? So in that case, I can do this, put in my notepad, do this, also put it in my notepad. Although I will try not to close this this page. You can also download the CSV file if you think that you might mistakenly leave this page or delete the access key. So download this CSV file. If you download it and you open it, you should see this. I've opened mine. You can see this is the access key and this is the secret access key. Okay, that is what you are. Very good, guys. I hope you are getting this. Okay, we are getting somewhere. Guys. Now that we have done this, remember that we got an error that says that permission error, no AWS access key was presented. So we want to present that access key. So what I'm going to do right here is I will come back to this page right here, my Visual Studio Code. I will come to terminal. I will do new terminal. You can see when I do the new terminal, this tells me I'm in this my EC2 instance. Then I would activate my virtual environment right here. I will say source airflow _ VNV bin /activate. Okay, I've activated my virtual environment that way. Okay, now what I'm going to first of all do right here is I'm going to install AWS CLI, because what I want to do right here is I want to configure my AWS with this access key and the secret key that we just got, because that way we can be able to obtain what is called a session session token right here. Okay, so now I will do this sudo apt install AWS CLI. I will do that, and that is running. Is asking me, do you want to continue? I will say yes. So that is going to run successfully. When that runs successfully, what do we need to do? And then we're going to do AWS configure. Okay, we are going to configure our AWS. Okay, it's still running. I think a few more seconds. And then I'll do this. I'll just say enter. Just say enter. Okay, very good. It has finished running. Now that it has finished running, I'm going to do this command also, AWS configure. And what this is going to do is it's trying to configure my AWS right here with my access key and my secret key. So it's going to be asking me that AWS configure. You see that it says AWS access key ID. By default, it's saying none, but in our case, we are going to come right here, copy that. Easier to do it that way. And then I would paste it. I'll say enter. It's asking for secret key. I'll come right here, copy, and I'll put it right here, paste. And then it's asking me for my default region. If you don't want to put your default region, that's fine. But in my case, if you don't want to put, you just click enter. But in my case, I will paste it right here, my default region, and I'll put enter. And then it's asking me for output format. I will just say none. I will just say enter. Now that is done. Okay. Now immediately I did that. You have this configuration right here. So you have region US WS2. You have these credentials. This is the credential that we just enter right here. It created this for us, okay, while we were entering those information right there. Okay, now that we have gotten that, the next thing we want to do is to be able to get the session token. If we can get the session token, then we will go back to our code and then update our code with that. Okay, now I will do AWS STS get session token. If I click that, see what it's going to give us. Now, very good. That has run, and see what that gave us. It gave us access key ID, secret access key, session token. You see all these. So these are the values that I then need. All these three values, I need them to put them in this DAG for it to run, so that we can be able to get out of the error that we had right there. Okay, so let us go to our function, this function right here. So I'm going to do something like this. I'm going to say AWS credentials. I'll do a dictionary, and then I'll say key. So that first key is going to be this one right, this access key ID. I'll create a quote and I'll put that right there. Okay, and then the next one is I'll say secret. And what is my secret access key? Just double click that to copy it, to highlight it, and then you Ctrl+C to copy. Okay, now that we have gotten there, then the next thing we are going to do is we are going to say token. Okay, token, and then put your quote right here, and then this is our session token. I'm going to double click just to make sure that if you double click and everything is not highlighted, just drag your cursor on it and let it and get all the values out. Okay, Ctrl+C, and then I'll put that right here. Okay, make sure that you don't have any mistake, okay, or any error. Now that we have gotten that, now what we then need to do is we need to pass an argument right here to this pandas.toCSV. So remember that you have storage options right here equals to, then you put this parameter. So that means that you are passing these parameters, all these key access ID, secret key, this token, you are passing it as a dictionary right inside this right here. And then what is going to happen under the hood is that this access key, secret key ID, and the session token are going to give us the privilege to be able to save the CSV inside our S3 bucket. Don't forget to save these guys, and I think that should be pretty it. Let's see what happens if we can be out of the hoods, right? If we can get things running. So let's come back right here. Let's come right here to our Airflow UI. I will refresh this page, and then I will come to graph. You can see that right here what we got before was that it tried to it did the retry, but still it wasn't successful, right? And that is why now you can see the red line which says failed, and you can see failed right here. However, we can refresh this page and then run again. Let's see if we are able to fix that. Trigger DAG, and then you see that has finished running. And then what happened right there? Did it run? Let us try it again. Let me just refresh from here just to make sure. Refresh. because all your update takes some few minutes or seconds to propagate through. Okay. Oh, you see now that it ran. Okay, you see, because we refresh, because like I said, when you refresh, and also it takes some few seconds or so for that code to propagate through into, the Airflow server. You can see that this already is successful. Now, how do we know it's successful? Let us go to our S3 buckets. Let's go to our S3 bucket and see if these are S3 buckets. We should be able to see a CSV file inside. Very good, guys. Very good, guys. We have our CSV file right here. Let us download this. Check this and then come to download. When you download, it comes to your local computer. Then I can open and show you guys. Very good. This is good. This is awesome, guys. You can see we have Portland description. We have temperature, feels like, minimum temperature, maximum temperature, all these things. Sunrise local time, sunset local time. Basically everything that we said we wanted in our DAG. That is what we wanted even in our Python function. I think let us also run it again. Let's see if we can have a second, if we can see a second CSV file just to verify that this is really working, guys. I will come back right here and then I would come here and then I will trigger my DAG. I will trigger that. Okay, the sensor is working, means that everything is ready. Now I'm extracting data. Okay, I've been able to extract the data. We are transforming right now. Very good. You can see this ran successfully, guys. Ran successfully. So let us go to our S3 bucket. Let us refresh this. You can see we have refreshed and we have gotten another data. This is the second data right here, guys. I hope you understand. You can see the time difference, 154, 156. I hope you guys understand this right here. This is a very basic project that we have done in terms of moving data from point A to point B. In this video, I showed you how you can move data from, how you can connect to the to your API, which in this case is the Open Weather Map API. We connected to it, right? And then we used, HTTP sensor to check if the information that we entered is correct, and even to check if the API is ready for us. And here we got that it is ready, and then we went to the next task, extract the data. When we extracted the data, we pass that data to this third task, which transforms the data and then load the data into our CSV. You can see that right here, guys, that this is pretty easy. We got some few glitches or some few errors along the way, which we were able to fix it. You see that is how it's going to be in your day-to-day development at work. You're going to be having some errors. You just have to spend some time to go on Google or stuff like that to be able to fix these errors. Okay, I hope you guys understand this right now. This is a very good project for you guys to begin. And one thing I'm also thinking of, in the next video, is that you can see that this is just one workflow, right? Yes, it is correct. However, and we have only 3 tasks right here. But what about if we want to have some tasks that are in parallel? So that means that as this is going, we want to have, let's say we want to have like 3 or 4 more workflows that eventually then they are going to probably merge somewhere. So we want to look at how do we have tasks that run in parallel to each other, because like in this case right here, this one needs to run before this, and then this one needs to run before this, right? But we want to explore another case whereby they are going to run in parallel. Yeah, I think we should do that in the next video, so that you guys can start upskilling yourself in the use of Airflow. I hope you guys understand this. If you really find this video helpful, please click on that like button, okay, so that we can be ranked higher in by the YouTube algorithm. And also subscribe to our channel, because it is when you subscribe that we can do more. We can bring out more videos. We can teach more things right here, so that we all can, you guys can increase your skill. Okay, and please comment in the put your comment in the in below if you have any question, or you have anything you want us to teach in the future. Okay, I hope you guys get this right here. Okay, and I also encourage you to please help us to share this video, so that others can also benefit from this video. All right, guys, I hope you all understand this right now. Now we have been able to use Airflow to do all of these things on AWS EC2. All right, guys, I will see you in the next class. Bye.